I'll do it live. Okay, hey guys, there we go. We are live just like that. And I've already got Rebekah on the screen with us to say welcome to your Monday evening Keep Calm and Carry It, episode 52. And here we go. I gotta mute myself every time. There we go. Gotta mute myself. Okay. I'm a little hyper right now because I just drank a protein shake, number one, for dinner. Number two, we were just talking about the insanity that is going on with the assault weapon ban congressional hearing last week, and then some things that popped out that I just found out about today. We'll get into that here in just a second. As always, guys, thanks for joining us tonight. It is Monday night. We're going to get the week rolling. I do appreciate each and every single one of you joining us. And we're going to be talking about red flag laws tonight. We're going to be hitting that pretty hard with someone I think is qualified to talk about red flag laws. She is extremely educated in what is going on, especially here in the state of Kansas and throughout the nation as well. She has her hands in a couple different pots, I would say, to really push home the Second Amendment. But before we get into that, naturally, we have shameless self-plug. So if you guys are new to the channel, if this is your first time, hey, you know what? If it's your first time with the channel doing the live thing, go ahead and jump into the chat room and say, hey, first timer, and we will call you out. Naturally, I want to say thank you to all the Patreon members that continue to support the channel. And I really do appreciate that because I have been able to position myself to really get some really cool things done here throughout the rest of the year. That's number one. Number two, if you guys don't already know, Ballistic Ink is my new partner for t-shirts. So if you guys are interested in some of the t-shirts, swing on by a Ballistic Ink. Links are down in the description below. You guys know all of that jazz. But I won't want to take up too much time with all the same selfless. I can't even speak. I think I just stroked out there for a second. Oh my gosh. All right. We'll do it live. Okay, here we go. Enough with the shameless self-promotion. There we go. Let's introduce our guests. Rebekah, thank you so much for joining us. Could you please pronounce your last name for me? Because I'm going to butcher it.
Everybody does. It's Schmoe, rhymes with boy.
You should have told me that 2 weeks ago. I would have had it. So luckily enough for me, Rebekah and I got to meet for the very first time Saturday before last at our state capitol, where we had a two-way rally in support of fighting red flag laws, especially here in the state of Kansas, specifically HR 838 and the TAPS Act. What else is going on out there as far as red flag laws that we need to be aware of?
Really, right now, it's just kind of an epidemic that's running through the country. I believe right now we've got 9 states that have some sort of red flag laws. The only one that doesn't have a ex parte order, basically that you're not invited to your own hearing, is in Maine. But that's it. Everybody else, they can have a hearing and you don't even have to be notified that they're discussing your mental health.
That's amazing. Before we dive into that a little bit deeper, let me. I'm just really. I don't know what the problem is. I'm really off today, but let's scroll back through. Let's say hi to everybody in the chat room because that's what we're supposed to do. Mario jumping in there first. He says, "Hey, we'll see you this Saturday at Tundra Tactical. I will try to be there this Saturday. I don't know about that. GG, LFGGGG. Hey, he's there early for 2 weeks in a row. Good to see you. Want to know what happened with the appointment today. So I will try to call you tomorrow. You want me to call? I'll just call you tomorrow morning. We'll call it good. Todd Schmidt jumping in there too. Kansas homies tonight. Yes, sir. Judd Miller. Hey, what's going on? Robert DeGrim Reaper. What's going on, bud? Let's see. Whoa, what's this? Hey, we got the Army Press in there, and I know who that is. And I am super excited that she jumped on. How are you doing? It's good to see you. Thank you. P.S. I love you. That should give everybody a big hint of who that is. Ribs in Kansas here is Bones X83. Good to see ya. K-Pop Riot. A lot of new names here. First time chatting with you live. Good on you. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Midas, good to see you. And Ravens in Flies. That's interesting. That's an interesting name. Shameless Self. Seamus Shelf. Yeah, that's same. Yeah. Keith, gunning for survival. Thank you for joining. And yeah, there she is. Hey, babe. That's so awesome. All right. So let's get back into it. We are talking about red flag laws. And again, we met at the state capitol, and we were talking about that. Ex parte of the 9, only one is you're allowed to be a part of the hearing. So why is that such a big deal?
Without being notified that you are under investigation, basically, on whether or not you should be allowed to have your rights, it completely removes all due process out of the situation. Pretty much in, let's see, the 5th, we talk about deprived of life, liberty, and property without due process. And so it already violates your 5th Amendment right. And then in the 6th, you're supposed to be able to obtain witnesses in your favor and counsel for your defense, but you don't have any opportunity to seek witnesses or counsel if they're having a hearing and you're not even aware that it's happening. And then, of course, we're not talking about a criminal trial because you haven't actually done anything wrong. So then that violates your 7th Amendment as well. So that's 3 in a row. So that's really the basis. And then, of course, after they have the hearing that you're not invited to, then they can come in and violate the 4th, which is unreasonable search and seizure.
That's correct. And remind me, and I may be springing this on you a little bit here because I don't know if you know the specifics or not, but they've already had I don't want to say a murder, but someone has already been killed because of, basically their surprise. Someone came busting in through the front door to come and grab his firearms because someone called in a tip. They had their meeting. They decided, yep, we need to pull his stuff out. And he resisted.
Yeah, that was in Maryland.
Maryland, that's correct. Yeah. I just heard the guy's name earlier today. Listening to, if you guys don't watch the YouTube channel High Impact Flicks, it's all one word, High Impact Flicks. I'd suggest trying it out. He's interesting to listen to his perspective. He's a little too far libertarian for my taste because he's talking about, taxation is theft, which is, I agree with that. But then he gets into the militarization of police officers. And I'm just like, that's pushing it a little bit for me. But he did bring up some really good, interesting facts about that case in Maryland. So let's back up just a little bit. And Rebekah, why don't you introduce yourself to everybody that doesn't know you and kind of tell us how you got into being a constitutionalist, the Second Amendment, and all of that jazz.
All right. That's kind of a long story. I'll try to condense it for you. Let's see.
I don't know about you. We got all night.
I was born. I grew up. Actually, that's actually where it started. I grew up in a home where we ingested political conversations 24 hours a day. It was always a topic of conversation. We were always being taught what our liberties were, why we have them, how to protect them, what happens when you don't protect them. And it was just part of life. I didn't realize that other people were not learning this at home. And so, of course, I would go to school and talk about it. I was in trouble with some of my teachers because I'd call them out on information that they were sharing that was not accurate. But basically, I grew up my entire life understanding our constitutional rights and the reasons behind them. I hunt and do outdoors stuff. I fish. I do all of that. I have kids. I have boys. And so I take them with me to do those things as well. I also make sure that we continue to have the conversations about what your rights are, how to protect them, why it's important with my own kids. And I've heard them have that conversation with their friends, so it's kind of nice. Now, it really all came to a head as far as Second Amendment specifically in 2013 because Sandy Hook happened in December of 2012. Shannon Watts came out speaking for all mothers, and I knew that she didn't speak for me, and I knew that there were plenty of moms out there that she obviously wasn't speaking for. So I found an organization that just popped up. It was kind of a knee-jerk reaction from our founder, Heather Marchese, and she, at the time, Shannon Watts' group was called 1 Million Moms for Gun Control. So Heather's reaction was 1 million moms against gun control. So I found the group and started kind of talking to the ladies that were part of it. I eventually became part of it myself and started running the Kansas chapter. And doing that, I kind of got, well, me being me, I started talking to everybody that I could talk to, and I wanted to get things done. And so I became part of the Kansas State Rifle Association for a few years. I was on the board, and I was able to help, and I was able to participate in some of the more well-known cases that and bills that we brought up. Things like constitutional carry and concealed carry before that, and making sure that open carry was statewide, things like that. I was privileged enough to be a part, kind of behind the scenes with all of that. And I stepped away from that because the national organization, 1 Million Moms Against Gun Control, started taking off. And we really needed to narrow our direction to being educational and not just reactive, but proactive, and getting women and kids involved in gun safety and knowing their rights. And then from there, let's see, I've made a lot of contacts and done a lot of networking, and we've been lucky enough to see some things get through. And unfortunately, over the last year, 2 years or so, the struggle's been real, and we have seen a lot of decline in rights nationally. A lot of it stems from crazy people doing terrible things, and then, of course, it's taken out on all of us. I recently started a podcast with the Timothy Knight, former NRA board director. He and I do a podcast called To the Republic, and we're having a great time telling people stories, just how they got involved in building their republic and what they're doing now. So that's brings you up to date.
That's awesome. And so that gives you a really great perspective on being able to talk about a lot of these different things. So, and you really kind of undercut me on some of the different things that you had going on, but that's okay. That's okay. We got that all out there. Where can we find the podcast?
The podcast is at totherepublic.us.
Is that on SoundCloud or iTunes or anything like that?
Honestly, he is updating that every day. Every day we get on something else and I get a message because he is the brains behind all of that, and I just smile and talk.
That's kind of how everything rolls in my family. We've got the looker, and then we've got the lift heavy things and drive guy, right? So
that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah. So I wanted to take a break because we've got a few more people jumping in. Your next is jumping in there saying spoons for Mark. So thanks for that. Ashley, also known as the Angel of Verdun, excuse me, she jumped in and said, she says that basically she's got to leave, but stay dangerous, guys, with the whatever these are. I don't know what you call this
Rock and
anymore.
roll?
Yeah, I guess rock and roll. I guess whatever. So it's good to see her jumping in. We got Tundra Tactical in there, and that is always great. So I have to drink water tonight because I will have a VIP rolling in here in a couple of weeks to stay for a while, and I'm excited about that. So it's time to really get back into the whole diet thing. So I'm drinking water tonight, which is great. We got Drop It Like It's Scott is in there. Chess, good to see you. And Logan White, I don't know if I mentioned you. Andrew Lovelace is in there as well. I don't know if I mentioned him. Blitz jumping in there, and Delance Stevens. Hopefully that rounds out everybody. If I didn't say hey, I'm sorry. But if you have any questions for Rebekah or myself, feel free to jump in. Please put the @fit_in_fire. What it does on my side is it highlights it so I can kind of zero in on that a little bit better. So if you have a question, I will try to jump on that as much as possible. Rebels Retribution, he's jumping in there as well. The most southern Minnesotan you would ever find. So, all right. So I've got a rant for just a second. I hope you don't mind, Rebekah, but I've got a rant just a second. Last week, Congress had a hearing to talk about the assault weapons ban of 2019. And there were a number of people that were there speaking. They had some individuals who were in support, obviously some individuals that were not in support. And they had a very passionate speaker by the name of Amy Shearer, someone that I shared the video on my feed, on my Instagram feed, who talked about why statistically all the studies that are out there actually supports the right to have, assault weapons, right? AR-15s, AK-47s. And, gave a really nice little talking point about taking her mom to the range. She couldn't shoot with a pistol very well, but she was able to shoot very accurately with a rifle at 3 times the distance. So that was really interesting. Some of the things that she had to say was really, really interesting. So I would encourage you guys to take a look at that piece, what she had to say, because what she had to say was very important and was really on it. However, I mentioned high impact flicks earlier in the stream, and he came out with a video showing her testimony in Congress, and then turned around and found some information where she was on Dr. Oz. Amy Shearer is a lawyer with the Heritage Foundation. The Heritage Foundation, from what I understand, is a fairly man. Here we go with the stroke again. Can you say the word?
It's all the water, man.
I tell you what, that and the protein shake. She is a very the Heritage Foundation is a very constitutionalist organization. That's what I was trying to say. Then all of a sudden, the same day that Amy Shearer is on Capitol Hill testifying, the Heritage Foundation drops a video of her and their psychologist on Dr. Oz, what seems to be in support of red flag laws. And it just blew my mind. It really pissed me off. How can you stand up there and talk about how people should have the ability to have these weapons to protect themselves, and how they are using these scary assault weapons in defensive situations where pistols are being used in assaults, right? But then turn around and say, we need red flag laws. Whoa, wait a second. That doesn't match up. I sent this to you a little bit earlier today. Did you get a chance to look at it?
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah.
watched it a couple times.
So, what were your thoughts?
To put it politely, when she was invoking all the emotion with her mom, because I can identify with that. I think we all can. When she was talking about how she hopes that her mom is, if God forbid she was ever confronted with an attacker or something, when she was on Capitol Hill, she said she hopes her mom has the biggest, scariest gun, black gun that there is. Now, if a neighbor or a coworker or basically anyone called in and said, well, I think that she hasn't really been herself lately, and I think that maybe she's a threat to herself or to someone else. That same scary black gun that she hopes that her mom has can very easily be taken away from her. And then the person who called in the tip knows that she no longer has that scary black gun. And that's dangerous, not just for her mom, but for all of us. And it's just to say that you support both sides of this, where, yes, I want to have the scary black gun, but I also want someone to be able to call in a tip so it's taken away from me. That doesn't equate. That doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, and it really bothers me to no end because it looks like it's a virtue signaling type of situation, right? Before I go on, I do want to point out that Mandatory Carry, he dropped in the $10 in the super chat. Thank you so very much. He says that he's at work. Well, keep fighting. I'll catch the replay tomorrow. It doesn't matter. Even if you jumping in and commenting, that does a whole bunch. And of course, naturally, the $10, that's really, really awesome. So see a little question here. I'll get to that here in just a second there, Shark. But the piece that really bugged me and something that really I had a hard time struggling with is how does that affect domestic violence survivors? Because you would think that red flag laws would bode in their favor for being a domestic violence survivor. However, just what you were talking about there really kind of clicked for me and realized, oh, wait a second, it goes both ways, right?
It very much does. It really is a scary thing to think about because a former partner, an ex that's disgruntled against you, that basically they have free reign to call in a tip and say, I think they're a danger. They can wait until they know that the orders have been carried out. And then, again, free reign. What are you going to do to stop them? And they know that.
Yes, exactly. Shark Chucker, he throws in kind of a curveball here. He says it seems like the whistleblower thing is a red flag in action. Anonymous attack with third-hand information that change anyone's mind. Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Now, I think that is that's kind of a fringe idea, but it really boils into the idea that anyone could just be. I mean, I've made a video about the Taurus G2C, and I said some not so nice things, and it's not very hard to figure out who I am. Someone could call up the local sheriff department and say, hey, this Mark guy, he's been saying a lot of really crazy things, I don't know. But it really bothers me. It bothers me a lot. So
at the rally in Topeka that we were both at,
yes.
that was another one of the things that I mentioned, just another one of the Bill of Rights that these whole things infringe on. Who is going to use their First Amendment right to speak their piece if they think that their neighbor is going to be calling in a tip against them? I sure have provoked several people speaking the truth and explaining constitutional law and things like that to everyday people who haven't studied it at all. They take great offense to the truth sometimes. And I know for a fact that I've received a lot of messages over the years about how my children should be taken away from me and things like that, simply because I'm a gun owner and because I'm outspoken about all of our rights. So it's terrifying to someone like me that someone could just call in a tip because they don't like a meme I shared on social media. They felt threatened, and that's all they have to say.
Kyle H jumping in there, leave my G2C out of this. Well, you know what? Stop being poor. Yeah, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. If you guys rock the G2C, that's on you guys. I'm fine with that. The important thing is that you're exercising your Second Amendment right. And if that's the gun that you chose to use, good on you. Maybe we'll see each other at the range someday. So, Art jumping in. Good to see you, bud. So where do we go from here? How do we fight this?
Obviously, we always talk about electing good people who actually represent us, who actually represent the Constitution of the United States of America. That is incredibly important. Getting behind your local politicians, your state politicians, your national politicians, and supporting those who support your rights, obviously is a must. However, the actual things that we need to be doing that we can and unfortunately most of the time haven't been doing, we do a lot of social media talking at people. We need to talk with people. We need to have genuine conversations with people who may not be gun owners and explain to them how this would infringe on their rights. In fact, you don't have to be a gun owner to have a red flag law affect you, because all they have to do is say that you have access to a firearm, and it doesn't matter if you have one or not. They're still going to show up at your door. They're still going to go through your stuff. And if you happen to make a sudden movement that they were not expecting, that could very well end your life. It's not just gun owners who need to worry about this. So we need to be speaking with politely, factually, but also using emotion, because it is an emotional topic. You're impeding on our rights. You're making our lives dangerous. You're taking away our life and our liberty and our property. And it is an emotional topic, and we just need to keep that under control so that we can discuss it with people who don't know anything about red flag laws, because there are a number of people out there that have never even heard the term.
Exactly right. And I know that I've spoken about this before, but I do have a relative who is extremely liberal. Like Rachel Maddow is her favorite TV personality.
I think we all have one of those.
I'm just like, oh. And in 4th of July, we got into an argument. Now, the 4th of July, the argument that we got into was Trump having his parade and how much of a waste of money it was. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. He's not allowed to, have a parade on the 4th of July, but it devolved into, I don't mind people like you having guns. And I'm like, people like me, what does that mean? And he said, well, you know what I mean, people who have training and stuff like that. And I was like, do we have to have training to have freedom of speech? No, we don't. It's bestowed on us by our creator. And it then devolved into the, well, we just need to get the military style ammunition off the street. And I'm just like, man, you're right. Because I tell you what, if we gotten it off the street, we would have been able to have it in the military, because I didn't have it in the military either. It was like, anyway. So the point that I'm trying to make is exactly what you're talking about, is how do we bridge that gap? And I'm a big proponent of listening and speaking, right? We have to listen to the concerns of the other side. And in order to bring them over, talk in a manner that will allow them to understand our position a little bit better. One of the things that I really like to, and I'm kind of rambling here, but one of the things that I really like to talk about is, number one, is it the police department's responsibility to protect you?
No,
And
that was already decided.
exactly. Through at least 3, if not 4 Supreme Court cases.
Yes.
The police department is, their sole responsibility is to enforce the laws, period. All right. So that's number one. So I talk about that. And they're like, okay, I don't know about that. And I was like, well, naturally, any police officer would hopefully come to your rescue if you're in need. Hopefully, I did put that in there. Hopefully,
Yeah, I heard that.
But also, the other aspect is, what is the response time for a police officer to get to your house?
To my house in particular,
Sure. Yeah.
it's taken them up to 12 minutes.
12 minutes.
12 minutes.
So I have been in combat. I have been shot at, and I can tell you 30 seconds in a violent life or death situation feels like an eternity. And you have to wait, for you in your particular, you have to wait 12 minutes. National average, I think, is 3.5 or 4 minutes, somewhere between a 3 to 4 minute mark. So if 30 seconds could mean the difference between life or death, imagine what 3 or 4 minutes would be. So I just trying to let that set in for a lot of people and try to go that angle, right? Or if they're belligerent, I like to go to, do you like Trump? And they're like, no. And I was like, so you want to take away the guns from us and give them to Trump? And then they're just like, I love that one. So,
oh yeah, that one's always fun. Backpedal.
I know. Right? Well, I mean, yeah, exactly. So I got to take a break. Let's back up here real quick, and let me jump into the chat room because I saw Tofu jumping in there. He is the Broke Asian on Instagram. It's good to see you, sir. Thanks for swinging by. Had your counterpart in earlier, so appreciate that. Tundra Tactical is jumping in there, says, how do you go about finding that particular that potential elected official when, like I said earlier, I feel like my ability to trust a politician to accurately and effectively represent a two-way rights me not read so good, I guess. When it seems that every time we find, quote unquote, our guy, something comes up and that shows us how backhanded that person is. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. And what do you think about that? Where do you find and support politicians the most?
Most of the time, I do remind myself that, I don't know, maybe it's a girl thing. I don't even agree with myself 100% of the time. I have to keep myself in check. I have to go through my own thoughts and go, no, that one's just delete, whatever, move on, and figure out what it is that I actually do believe, the foundation of why I believe it, and then move from there. So if I can't even agree with myself 100% of the time, I would never expect to agree with a politician or anyone else 100% of the time. I am, I'm a one-topic voter. And surprisingly, my topic is not the Second Amendment, it's the Constitution. If we can find people who stand up, who have read, that's important, have read and understand the Constitution, and then they make their decisions based on that, that's what I look for more than anything else. Occasionally, we will find those, and then they will say something stupid. And then that's when it's we the people's job to step in and remind them of what it is that we sent them for, because they effectively work for us. They are not, when we elect our government officials, they are not leaders. They are basically our employees, and they need to be reminded often that we hold the cards and we can fire them at will.
Exactly. And that's something that I picked up on in Beto O'Rourke's rally that he had in Colorado, where he had his butt handed to him by a mom who was there carrying, which is ridiculous.
She was fantastic.
It was really good.
Yeah.
There were some talking points that could have done a little bit better, but I understand she's nervous. She's in a big crowd of people that don't think like her. And Beto kept on saying, we need to take, we as in the context is like, we, the government needs to take these things off the street. And I was like, whoa. No. We, the people, need to decide that, right? So you talk about that. My 2 litmus tests are, when I talk to anyone, is number 1, can you define the 5 protections in the First Amendment? And number 2, can you recite the Second Amendment? If you can't get that, or at least jumble a coherent, paraphrase of it, then we got a long talk ahead of us. Atomic Bulls jumping in there. The Second Amendment has already been limited into a non-right with permitting and or no free travel. Red flag laws are just another nail. Correct. It's as I know Jesse James is kind of famous for saying it. It's death by 1,000 cuts. And then Tufu jumping in there trying to be funny because he's hilarious. He says, imagine you text your crush and that 30 seconds she's texting you back. That's eternity. And I was like, yeah, I get you there. So, hey, oh my goodness. We got a bit of a celebrity that just jumped in there. Oh my gosh, what happened to it? There he is. Timothy Knight. There he is. Good to see you, sir. Thank you so much for swinging by. He says response times, people don't think about them until they need them. It's correct. Little story. I'll make it quick, but walking out behind my house before they started building back there, and big open field, went down into the creek because I had permission to hunt that area for turkey, to retrieve a trail cam, and came across some plants that smelled very odd. And then when I took a closer look at them, realized that those are not supposed to be there. So I called the Pot County Sheriff's Department. Literally, and they came out, and it took them about 15 minutes to get out there. So, that's one of those things. Let's see. Tundra Tactical says, tell Rebekah. Solid answer. Of course it's solid answer. She knows her stuff. And she's got the backing of Timothy Knight, So between the two of them, yeah. Nice name, shooters. All right. So we've kind of ranted and raved a little bit about Heritage Foundation, red flag laws, those bits. What are some of we've talked about red flag laws, but what are some of the major concerns that you have with HR 838 or the quote unquote TAPS Act that has been proposed to the Congress? I know that goes a little bit beyond what red flags can do. What are some of the concerns you have with that?
All right. TAPS, for anybody that doesn't know, is Threat Assessment Prevention and Safety Act.
They made a movie about that, didn't they? Tom Cruise was in it.
Yeah, The Minority Report. Yeah, that one. Pretty much. If you want to do some homework on it, just go watch that movie. It wasn't a spectacular movie, but you should watch it anyway.
I liked it. I'm a Tom Cruise fan because I kind of look like him, but
Well, in layman's terms, the TAPS Act is what the no-fly list is, but for gun owners specifically. It denies your rights. It goes a little bit past the extreme risk protective orders, simply because it puts a handful of bureaucrats that are not elected officials in charge of determining who gets to keep their rights and whether or not you ever get your rights reinstated. And that's a terrifying thing, because this group that will be deciding, they don't report to we the people, and they also don't necessarily have to report to Congress. It's a committee. And so that is what makes it much scarier even than red flag laws.
And there's a level of data collection as well, right?
Oh, yeah.
That boils down into your social media presence. Mm-hmm. So again, like you've been talking about earlier, you post an offensive meme or not even offensive, maybe just a little rough, around the edges, and that gets pulled into the data collection.
Yeah.
From what I understand.
Everything that you say, everything that you do is going to be monitored, and it's kind of a moving target. Basically, what their definition is concerning behavior. So I know in my life, in these last 40 years, I have had some concerning behavior. I mean, you don't believe half my parents. They could tell you some stories. But
that's why I've got a 21-year-old.
Right? So if the target is constantly moving and there's no clear definition of what concerning behavior is, and then you've got this handful of people that don't answer to anyone determining whether or not you've shown concerning behavior, that's going to be a problem, not just for gun owners, but overall, that will eventually affect everyone.
Very much so. Very much so. And Mark Spivey, he jumped in. He says, do you honestly think that isn't already going on? Of course it's going on. NFA all day. They're not NFA. Oh my goodness. I'm totally spacing the alphabet soup. Not the NFA, but the national, not the, it's you got the CIA, you got the FBI, and then you have the NSA. Thank you, Tufu. NSA. God, man, I'm struggling.
It's that water, man. Lay off the water.
I'm telling you, man. I'm wondering if this doesn't have vodka in it, man. Now, so there's that. So I would agree with that. But I had a question from GGLFGGG. He says, and this is kind of going into the red flag laws and stuff like that. He says, do you really think that law enforcement and or military is going to go door to door, house to house, and try to, confiscate firearms? I would hope not. I know that there are a lot of sheriffs that have come out and said, no, we will not enforce this law in Nevada, Arizona, some of these other pretty conservative states. But with that being said, what's your take on it? What do you think?
That's kind of a tricky question. I very much support our law enforcement officers, all of our first responders. I have a military family. I very much support our military. And I know these people on a personal level, and I know that they would never go to someone's door because someone said, hey, your neighbor, may or may not be exhibiting questionable behavior, so go take their guns. They're not going to show up at your doorstep because somebody told them that. They're going to be misled. It's going to be this person, this is your job. This person has shown that they're the threat to themselves and others. This is what you signed up to do. Execute these orders. It's not going to be, hey, this is your sister's friend's cousin's aunt and, go knock on her door and take her guns. It's going to be, this person is a threat. We need to extinguish this threat.
And Atomic Bulls, he's jumping in there with a very good point. Some of these LEOs, law enforcement officers, they're just doing their job. He says law enforcement will do what they're told for their pensions. And, I would agree with that. I mean, they've got families to feed, right? They can't just drop everything and walk away because of their conviction. I would hope that they would, but there's that aspect of it too. That's troubling to think of. What do you think?
Honestly, I think that we're going to see a lot of people being misled. That's just the way it is. They're going to be duped into raiding their neighbors' homes. And we always hear we hear see something, say something all the time. It's just a well-known household phrase now. And that is already happening without red flag laws, without the TAPS Act. People will see something and they say something. That's what happened in Parkland. And we all know how Parkland ended up. Those police officers chose to not go to the house and make sure that the situation was safe. They would go and they would check it out, and then they would leave. And we all know what happened with that. It's unfortunate that these things happen, but people already see something and say something. We don't need the added laws that aren't designed to catch criminals. If they were, they would do more than come in and take your firearms. They would take you into custody. They would seek out help for you. Since they're not doing that, we know that it has nothing to do with your actual safety. It's strictly gun confiscation. And it's unfortunate, but when you start inviting law enforcement officers to get involved in personal cases like that, there's a good chance that they're not going to step back from the situation until they are asked to go raid a friend or family member's house.
Yeah, what bugs me about all of that, because I keep on seeing people talk about dogs. I don't want my dog shot. I've got two beautiful dogs, one of which is fairly large, and she is just like all the other women in this household. She don't take no job for nobody. So that's something that. That all of that really bothers me. I need to back up, because there was a comment from someone earlier, and man, I'm hoping that I can find it. I do want to say hi to Avery. Good to see you, bud. Still working on what we talked about over email, so just be patient with me, and hopefully I can get something worked out. But I did see something in here that someone said that they were law enforcement for 9.5 years and then got out of it, and said, yeah, basically we're just the cleanup crew. And that's a good way to put it. So, hey, Skip's Tactical just jumped in there. Good to see you, Avery. We got two Averys rolling around in there. So Skips, and you, Rebekah, you guys need to get together, because I think that you guys would make a really cool dynamic duo. So, yeah. So, what else? What else we need to talk about tonight, man? We're just all over the map here.
A little bit.
Let's see. I'm looking at my notes here, because I took notes in my my phone. So tell us about the podcast. You mentioned it before. You're on with Timothy. Not Kennedy. Not Kennedy. Not him. Oh, I hate that guy. Excuse me. I strongly dislike that individual. Timothy Knight. Sir, I am sorry if you're still watching. I'm sorry to conflate those names. Timothy Knight. You're on with him. Tell me about your guys' podcast and what is your focus?
All right. It's called To the Republic, and you can find it at totherepublic.us. And Tim and I, we find people who are actively participating in our republic, because we hear all the time about our democracy, and we are not. The word democracy is never mentioned in the entire Constitution, and we're not a democracy. We are a republic. And as it was said, we are a republic so long as we can keep it. And we have active people that we know from our personal backgrounds and our circles of friends that we've established over the years who are doing their part to embolden our republic, because we've kind of just forgotten the mission of if you can keep it. And so we've done several interviews now with people. Let's see, we had Rick Ector. His interview is up on our website there, and Rick is out of Detroit, and he had a class where he trained, not he himself, he and a team of really good instructors trained over 800 women in one day in the Detroit area in firearm safety. So that's huge. Just teaching respect instead of fear when it comes to firearms is paramount. Then we've had Derek Leblanc from Kids Safe Foundation, and he's trained kids in a 3-state, I think it's now a 4-state region in firearm safety. And I tell people all the time, especially working in a mom's organization, about the Second Amendment. The only way we're going to pass on our rights is by training up our children. They're the ones coming up. They're the ones that need to understand their rights and how to defend them. And then, of course, we had Sarah Joy Albrecht and Genevieve Jones of the Hold My Guns organization, which ties in nicely with our discussion on the TAPS Act and red flag laws. And if you guys don't know anything about Hold My Guns, it's an organization where we pretty much are taking the government out of it. The government does not have to babysit us. These ladies have come up with an organization where if you find yourself or a loved one in a crisis situation, then you can contact a local FFL and they can safely store your firearms until such a time that you, not the government, determines that you are past that crisis situation, and you can go pick them up. And it's just like any other consignment paperwork, and you don't even have to tell them what the crisis situation is. It's a fabulous organization, and it was a whole lot of fun to talk to them. But basically, the whole podcast is telling people stories and what they're doing, and that all of us have resources, all of us have knowledge that other people need. It is our job to be ambassadors, not just of the Second Amendment, but of our rights as a whole, and do something within our community that will strengthen our republic.
Absolutely. Absolutely. To kind of dogpile on all of this, I do want to point out something from the chat room. Spike's Tactical Solutions, she was my guest last week, had a great show, very much like this show, another awesome show. But I did see that she is offering, let's see here. Let me back up here. So she is offering free safety course in Florida. So if you're in the Florida area and you're looking for firearm safety course of some sort, please swing by Skip's Tactical Solutions either their Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Go to the website. You can just Google that, and that is another awesome way to get plugged in as well. And then before we go any further, I just have to take a moment, Sarah, to say, hey, baby Ellie, how's it going on? It's Uncle Mark saying hello. I just had to say hello because I got a text from Tyler saying every time you talk, she starts looking. And here is Tyler with baby Ellie. She is just a gorgeous little peanut. So there we go. I had to do that. Jump in there and get me all mushy and everything. So, so what do you have? What do you have coming up with To the Republic? Is there who's kind of next on the list? If I missed that, I'm sorry, but do you know by
Let's
chance?
see. Our next one that's going to drop, I believe, is Hold My Guns with Sarah and Genevieve, and we had a lot of fun with that one. They're some fantastic ladies. Other people that we have coming up, the Second Amendment is for everyone. We're going to be talking with the guy that founded that organization. Let's see, we've got Sean Maloney coming up. I don't know. We've got a list. I'm telling you, man. With all of Tim's contacts from all of the years that he's been defending liberty, all the way from Colorado, from the Colorado recalls, all the way up through today, and between that and all of the contacts that I've made, and especially local people that Tim hasn't had a chance to meet with yet and everything that I'm trying to introduce him to, that are based here in Kansas, that I'm just blessed enough to be able to hang out with and talk to, you included, obviously. We have our work cut out for us. There are a lot of stories, and there are a lot of people who are active in building our republic. It's really a fantastic thing and a really fun project to be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. And incidentally, I just saw a notification pop through my Facebook here, and it would seem that a Mr. Knight just friended me on Facebook. So, sir, thank you so much for that. I feel special now. I've arrived.
I told you, he's a really cool guy.
He is. He really is. Even the the 3 minutes that I got to speak with him back at SHOT Show last year at We Like Shooting's little get together.
Those are some fun guys.
Oh yeah. I was really impacted by Tim.
Yeah.
Just in those few moments. So tell us about you, and I'm seeing here, I got someone that jumped in here and it said, does Rebekah have a channel? So you don't do YouTube, correct?
No, I do not.
No, you don't.
No, I am on the To the Republic with Timothy Knight, and then I do a lot of social media for the Million Moms Against Gun Control stuff. I work a full-time job. I have 3 boys. I try to allow
2 full-time jobs.
Yeah, I try to allow them to have somewhat of a social life and sports and things like that. And basically, all of my Second Amendment stuff is all volunteer. It's all free time. It's just when I can fit it in, where I can fit it in. So yeah, this is it for right now. We'll see what's next. But that's always on the back burner.
Now, incidentally, we both were at the same location about 3 weeks ago. Yep. And didn't even know that that either one of us was there. What were you doing there?
All right, I work with an organization called Becoming an Outdoors Woman, and it's put on through the Kansas Department of Wildlife, Parks, and Tourism. And it's a fantastic organization. And we have women from all over the state. I think we may have had 4 states represented this last year. I was teaching archery and deer hunting and bow hunting during the weekend, but we have everything from teaching women how to mountain bike to teaching, we had a bow fishing class one year. They do horseback riding. There are botany classes and stream ecology, kayaking, how to back a trailer. I mean, they really cover the gamut of everything that you ever wanted to learn. Some of my favorite classes over the years, trapping and tracking, and all the fur bearing stuff. And then let's see, I am partial to the rifle range. The rifle guys, that's where I like to hang out when I'm working. When I'm teaching all weekend, it's hard to make it up there, but I always make a point to get up there and see the rifle guys and couple gals that spend their time up there. So but it's not all just Second Amendment stuff. We have everything outdoors that you could possibly imagine, and they're always looking for new ideas. The instructor, the coordinator of all of it, her name is Jamie McCabe, and she is a genius when it comes to introducing women on how to go about learning outdoors activities. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. All the different things that not only that organization is doing for women, but also all the things that you've got your hands into as well. It's mind numbing. And I didn't know that you had 3 boys. So,
oh yeah.
Praise Jesus. I am struggling with my daughter. Okay. And the wife.
I would take my 3 boys over 1 girl any day. That's a whole different thing, man.
No, there's been some things that have come up that me as a father, I'm just like, I don't feel too comfortable.
I have those conversations with my boys from time to time where I'm like, I'm not a dude. I don't know. Go ask a dude. Go talk to go talk to your dad. I don't know.
You guys are not helping. That's good. So Timothy, he jumped in there and said a YouTube channel is coming. So there you go.
I told you, he's the guy. He's in charge of all of that. I just smile and talk.
So even if you guys were to do your podcast and just film, just kind of like what we're doing, you don't have to make it public until after you get done. You can edit things down, and then
we've kind of been practicing that some.
So, and that's another way to get everything out there. If people are confused of where to find the podcast on the website, there's the YouTube option as well. I know that's something that Gun Funny is what they do. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Don't tell me the answer. I know the answer. It is Clover Tack. He does the same thing. So some great guys there. Art saying your daughter ? Bold claim, friend. Yeah. you don't know the ladies that I'm dealing with here. So and I've got 3 of them. It's me and the dash hound. That's all I've got right now. Me and the dash hound is is all that I can handle right now. So Tundra Tactical says I might know a guy who could help Rebekah with that. So
I'll take notes here.
I think he's talking about himself. Or possibly Tufu. Yeah, of course. Tufu, he is like he's a whiz when it comes to the interwebs and the electronics and stuff. He's helping out Jim Fuller and Jim Fuller's new YouTube channel that he has called Guns, Guitar, and Freedom, I think is what it's called. And it's just a live show, just kind of like what we do right here. And that's it. So like Mead Fuel Rants as well. So, of course. No, I'm talking about you too, Fu. So, oh my goodness. So we have been rolling for over an hour. I promised you that it would be an hour or less, and we've busted time. So
that happens.
I know, man. It didn't go. It didn't seem like it was an hour. It went really fast. And so thank you for keeping the conversation rolling. But we're going to go ahead and wrap it up, I think. Unless there's anything else that you want to get out there and talk about, any rants, anything that is going on that you want to jump into, or anything like that.
Ranting would be a bad idea because I could be here all night. Really, closing thoughts basically would be, it's not enough to know what your rights are, and it's not enough to talk to like-minded people about what your rights are. We need to be talking to our coworkers and our neighbors. We need to relearn in this country how to have a conversation and not agree on every aspect. We need to be polite and professional, but we also should not be pushed around. Know your rights, talk to others about your rights, and just continue the conversation. That's all I got for you.
Absolutely. That's very adult of you.
I try from time to time.
It's Monday. I can't adult today, man. Today was just oh my goodness. So one last thing I want to jump in there and talk about is, you guys know that I've had Carrie Sloan on the channel before. She runs Stilettos and Shotguns on Instagram. But she had a video on Instagram earlier today that was talking about the Second Amendment rally, November 2nd at Washington, D.C. on the Capitol. I will not be able to make it. I have a very finite amount of vacation time left, and it is already spoken for by a very, very special lady. So with that being said, if you guys are interested in being a part of that, coming out and supporting Second Amendment rights at the nation's capital, secondamendmentrally.com, I think. Ooh, let me look it up. That
sounds right, but I looked at a lot of stuff today.
Yeah, man, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on.
Yeah.
2arally.com should be where you can jump in and register for being at the rally. So that is something that you guys should definitely check out if you're interested in being a part of that. It is extremely important that we get into a lot of these rallies that are out there. Man, I don't know. I'm looking at this right now, and this shows Pennsylvania right to keep and bear arms. So I'm wondering if this is not the right one. So let me double check, because I want to make sure I get this out to you guys right. Naturally, what I'll do is I'll research it as soon as we're done with the live chat, and I'll put it in the description below. So if you guys come back and look at it a little bit later, you'll find it down in the description below. So let me just double check here. Second Amendment. Just talk amongst yourselves. Nope, that's not either. I'm going to have to do some research, guys. I'm sorry. I am not coming up with what I thought I was supposed to come up with. And that's not coming up with something either. Man, I'm really struggling. I tell you, this Monday is really kicking my butt. Nope. None of it's coming up, so I've got to do some research and figure out where this website is. I'll put it in the description below. Sorry I didn't have it. Oh, goodness. Struggling. So, all right, Rebekah, last word. What do you got?
Keep your head down and your powder dry.
Very good. Powder dry. I love that. All right, so LFGGG saying, got to go to bed. Another doctor's appointment tomorrow. Today was not very encouraging. Thoughts are going to you, sir, and I will give you a call tomorrow. Avery saying, great show. Guys, thanks so much. I sure do appreciate it. If you are on the Instagrams, please, by all means, start following Rebekah. She would appreciate it. She has a lot of great information on there. If you're local to the Kansas area, a lot of great information too. You know what? I'm sorry. I've got to ask one more question. I just realized this. I got to back up here because I'm all over the place. But earlier in the comment section, someone was asking about the KRA, or is it the KSRA? Which one is it? KSRA, right? And was wondering if they support red flag laws.
No,
they
do not support red flag laws.
Okay.
Basically, I'm sure that they've taken a public stance on it. I couldn't direct you to one in particular because the organization as a whole is 100% always, all the time, what does the Second Amendment say? And no matter what little dig is the new trendy one at the time, the KSRA has not supported any laws that would impede on our liberty whenever it comes to the Second Amendment, to my knowledge, since I've been affiliated with them.
That's good. That's good to hear. I, unfortunately, not able to follow the KSRA very much because they blocked me on Facebook. So,
really?
Yeah, they did. They were promoting. I don't know if you're familiar with Instructor Zero.
Oh, yeah. They invited him to one of the things. Yeah.
So they did a meet and greet with him down at Thunderbird Firearms Academy in Wichita, and my buddy Andrew and I, we were kind of poking fun at Instructor Zero because some of the things he's done in his videos they're just pretty funny. Like, so doing wind sprints with a parachute, right? And he had a dude in a tracksuit that was like holding the parachute up, and we were like, "Hey, can we be the parachute holder?"
Yeah.
And just funny things, not anything that was derogatory or anything like that.
I'm gonna find out who blocked you.
You blocked me?
No, I'm gonna find out who did.
Oh, okay.
I know now.
So so this was a few years back. So it probably would have been actually my wife's account because at the time my wife and I were actually sharing an account. So it was Amber and Mark. So it was me.
That's fantastic.
And my buddy Drew. We got blocked. So I'm just like
stirring the pot. Look at you.
We're just being fun. Nothing was derogatory. Nothing was bad. It was very. It wasn't even it was in good humor, and it wasn't in bad taste.
Yeah.
Wasn't even adult humor, it was just
right. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Now I have some messages to send out.
Okay. All right. Finally, let's go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off here. We've just been talking so much. I hate to go, but I've got to get to bed. Obviously, I need some sleep. So, Rebekah, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was so awesome to meet you 2 weekends ago. The speech that you gave, I wish that was posted somewhere. I don't know if it is or not.
It's on it's on my Facebook page. Okay. I think that it was on. Let's see. Well, it's on the 1 Million Moms Against Gun Control Facebook page also, but it's kind of been shared to a bunch of different Kansas groups and things like that. But yeah, it's out there.
Good. So definitely check out 1 Million Moms Against Gun Control. Definitely check out a lot of the other things that we talked about tonight, to include To the Republic podcast. I will have as much of that stuff down in the description below as I possibly can get. But with that being said, we are going to go ahead and sign off. Thank you very much, everybody, for swinging by and being with us on this Monday night. We've run late, and I'm not going to say sorry. I'm just glad that you guys are here, and I love seeing you in the chat room. So thank you so much. And as always, keep calm and carry. Have a good night, guys. See you later.